Welcome back. This is part two of our vCenter Operations Manager subject. In the last module, I would have deployed the vCenter Operations Manager appliance, contains our two VMs. Um, in this module, I'm going to go through both the Foundation edition of vCenter Operations Manager and the standard edition of vCenter Operations Manager. How we can use the different badges to monitor our infrastructure. I'll demonstrate this firstly with the Foundation edition, and then I'll move over to another infrastructure where I have the standard edition configured, and then we'll take a look at the additional badges that are provided with the standard edition. So let me get started here. I have my vSphere web client up and running here. Previously, once I click on vCenter Operations Manager at the home screen, I wasn't seeing these options, the Open vCenter Operations Manager and the Configure vCenter Operations Manager. We should have seen this once we deploy the appliance, but in my environment here, I had to restart the vCenter server before these options came up here. So we did deploy it. What we can do is go to configure here, and this would take us to the admin page, which we would have seen before. So I'll just select on my current IP there. So we would have seen this page previously in the last module towards the end. So as I mentioned, this is where we'll do some basic monitoring on the appliance itself. We could update this and some additional stuff we could do here. We could stop the service, restart the service, and a couple other things. But what I want to work with is the vCenter Operations Manager user interface here. Okay. So once we log into this, we'll use the admin as the username and the password we would have created. Once we log into this one went straight to the interface here since I recently logged into this. But once we logged in here, we would see our objects over on the left. Okay. We have some additional info towards the middle here, and then we have a little status bar over at the right hand here. With the Foundation edition, there isn't a lot we can do with this edition of the vCenter Operations Manager. We could use three badges here to manage our infrastructure or monitor infrastructure. We have the Health badge, and this is a symbol that represents health. We have Workload, and then we have Faults. Okay, and they are color coded. So once I move over to the right here, green would be a good state. So obviously green is good, red would be a bad state here. Okay, and then if you move over here, and this would be an abnormal state. Okay, it's yellowish here. And then if you move over to orange here, this is a degraded state for our object. If we move over, we have the question mark. This is an unknown state for our inventory object. And then way over to the right, if our resource is powered off or is offline here, it would be represented with this gray with the X. Okay, so by default, once we log in, it brings us to our inventory. So currently we are at World. So I could drop this down here and then come down to my vCenter server level. I have my data center level there, and then I have my ESXi server here, or host. And then what's contained within this ESXi host, I have my data store and my two VMs that are supporting or that are running the vCenter Operations Manager in my case here. Okay, so if I was to select my vCenter server here, I'll notice for the most part we are green here. Okay, so there is one red here, which is a fault, but we'll get to this once we monitor our alert. But generally everything looks good here is green. Um, what we should take note of too is this system is still learning our infrastructure, so it will take a period before it builds a normal profile or what is normal in our data center. Okay, if I go over to the relationship tab here, I could see the relationship with of our objects within the inventory. So this is at the vCenter server level. Let's say I come to this ESXi host. Before I move on, this is my vCenter server in relations to the other objects in our inventory. But if I was to come over to my ESXi host, I would notice this would change here. Okay, and then you have some information way down at the bottom here too. If we go back here, it'll just give us a basic summary of our inventory, data center, cluster, number of VMs, number of data stores. Once I come over to the host here, I will have that view for this particular host. Okay, the CPU capacity, memory capacity of the resources that are on this ESXi host. This is a relationship of my data store and VMs in relationship to the ESXi host here. So I have my data center level, then only one ESXi host below this with two virtual machines, and these virtual machines are connected to this particular data store. Okay, if I come down in this list here and select on the data store, this view would change too. So I have my two VMs that are part of this host, and we have only one data store connected here. Let's say I move over to one of my virtual machine in this list. Okay, so it will show me the relationship of my virtual machine to the host and data store here. Also, what I'll notice too is I have a score here for health if I hover over it here. Okay, so that's basically the environment. Just gives us a little summary of our environment here. If I go over to my operations tab here, I can see my same three badges here. I have my workload here. I have my health and faults. Okay, so let me go over and select on workload. So this would give me a little summary of my workload in this inventory here. I have my CPU, my memory, my disk, and my network resources workload over on the left here. And then over on the right, I have my CPU and memory here too. Okay, let me go over to my health. Okay, so this will give us some basic summary too of health over on the right here. I still have this one fault. Okay, we'll get to alerts just now where we'll take a look at that. But if I come down in my list here, in my inventory, if I select this particular host, we're still in the operations tab here. I have some additional options at the bottom here for storage. Okay, so I'm still under operations tab. I'm actually on the ESXi host here now, and if I move all the way down here, I have some information on storage. I have my data store. If we had LUN set up, we could take a look at that. Data store read and write. We have throughput, latency. We have it as a total throughput, and then we could have a breakdown once we select our virtual machines on the left here. This is our VM NIC, that is our physical NIC here coming off of this vSwitch on this ESXi host. We can take a look at the send and receive packets here, and then we have the aggregate over on the right. Let's move down here and select one of our VM. If we come down at the bottom here, we should see some information pertaining to this particular VM too. We could look at our vdisk, read and write, and similarly we could take a look at the vNIC here. Then we have the option to of selecting the VM NIC that is connected to the host. at the layer above it. Then if I move over here, I have my alerts. So if I go back to my vCenter server level, I see I have an alert here uh, pertaining to this vCenter object. If I select that, it will just bring us back where we were previously. So as I mentioned previously, we can't do a lot here right now because it's still calculating what's normal for our environment. So it'll take a while to build this profile. Um, but generally with the foundation edition of the vCenter Operations Manager, you can do a lot because we did spoke about the different badges in our last module, but as we can see here, there isn't a lot of the badges that we spoke of being displayed here. We only have 3 of them. Okay. Some additional things we can do here. If you go to notification, okay. So once we had our mail set up proper, our SMTP settings, we can have alerts being generated and sent to us from the vCenter Operations Manager. Okay, so this is basically it in a nutshell for the Foundation Edition. So what I'll do now is just bring up an infrastructure where I have the standard edition set up, and then we'll take a look over there. Okay, so I'm over to my vCenter Operations Manager Standard Edition now. So let's go log in there. vCenter Operations Manager, and then open the console here. So here, I'll just log into this. Admin is the username, and then the password we would have set up. Okay, so the first thing we see here is our 3 major badges. We have the health, risk, and efficiency badges here. So we could drill down further from this home screen here. If I come across on the left here, why is health at this particular score? Okay, I could just click this drop down arrow here. So I have my minor badges that falls under health. In this case here, I have workload, anomalies, and faults. And if I go over to risk, why is the risk score at 50? I have my time remaining, my capacity remaining, and my stress level here. And this would fall under, these would fall under the risk major badge there. And then here under efficiency, we have our 2 minor badges, reclaimable waste and density. That falls under the major efficiency badge. If you look over on the right, we have a little summary here. So just like a quick view of this in the center. And then this is overall look at our environment. We could drill down further and then come to, okay, say we're looking at one particular host. Okay, so we're dealing with this particular host. Say we had multiple hosts here. We could view the same information for this. Okay, we could even go down further from here and just look at the particular virtual machine or a particular data store. Look at the major and the minor badges for that particular resource. Okay, so we have a lot more flexibility here as compared to the Foundation edition. Next, let's just go over back to our vCenter server level there, and then come over to environment. Let me just come over to the overview tab. So this is very similar to what we saw before in the Foundation edition, but in just this case here, we have a lot more in terms of our badges that we can look at. The same key we have over on the right here. A nice feature here is we have a little scoreboard here. So here we could have the we can take a look at the major badge here and the minor badges that fall under this with the score for it. Okay, Then it's also sorted by the resources over or the objects over on the left here. So say we were looking at our host level. This is our health, major badge health. And then we have our workload anomalies and faults. That would fall under health here. Then moving across, we have risks here. So basically, we just see a little summary with all the scores for a resource. And then for risks, we have time remaining, capacity remaining, and stress. And then if I scroll all the way over, I have efficiency with the waste and density minor badges. So it's just a little summary, and then we could drill down further once we click on this particular resource. Um, so if we move further here to members, we'll just see the same objects that we could drill down further. Basically the same thing we were seeing in the member list here. If we go over to relationship, we would have seen this in the foundation edition too, where we can take a look at the different relationship between objects in our inventory. And as I drill down further here, this would get more detailed too as I come down to the virtual machine. For example, I'll just see the relationship of this VM to this particular host and a data store. Let me move over to the operations tab. Okay, so I really like this view here. Let me move over to the left. So we would have seen something similar to this in the Foundation Edition. If I scroll over or move over to the right here in all metrics, so events, we have some basic stuff being displayed here, but if we go over to all metrics here, this is basically all the metrics that are being captured. So let's just drill down for CPU usage, for example. If I want to take a look at our, let's see what we could look at, which counter here. CPU usage in terms of percentage. So once I double click on that, I have a nice little graph over here. And then it doesn't change if I was to select another resource. So say I come to memory now and I need to look at, let's see what we can look at here. Memory consume in terms in terms of kilobytes. So if I select that, you'll just add different graphs here, and then we could work with these here. We could capture this, we could save this. We could do this drill down like further, go to our network resource, bytes received in kilobytes per second. Okay, so you have lots of flexibility here. You have to spend time with this to go through the different metrics that we could monitor. And similarly, as I mentioned with the Foundation Edition, you'll need this to work over a period to build a little baseline there. And then as you deviate from that, then you'll monitor back your resources. And this is our little tree in relationship, in our VM in relation to where it's being located in the inventory. So we could see that here too. Okay, so let me move over to planning here. So here is where we would plan for long-term capacity planning. So we have, well, actually we could do a lot more than capacity planning here. If we go over, we could take a look at all here, all views, or just come in and just hone in on a particular, let's say we're looking at capacity. In terms of storage capacity remaining before we run out of storage space, a number of days, in terms of percentage, we could do that for all of our resources over on the left here. And there are lots of options here too. You could do the same for time remaining in terms of number of days. And then we could move through the inventory coming down to our virtual machines too. Okay. What we can also do is take a look at alerts. This is very similar to what we would have seen before. So we have no alerts currently for this particular VM, but if I move up the level here, we have two alerts for this particular host. So once we click on this, we could drill down further. Analysis, if we had multiple hosts here, and we are trying to determine, for example, which host has the most demand on memory or the highest demand on memory, we could view that here. But we don't have any data. We just run in one host for now here. And then finally, we have our report tab where we could generate reports based on these pre-configured reports here. So this is basically the standard edition of the vCenter Operations Manager. As you can see, we have a lot more flexibility here as compared with the Foundation edition. So for you to basically be successful with this, you need to create your baseline and then monitor your environment and look what is an ideal situation for your environment when you deviate from that, and this can be quite useful for your setup. And this is all I wanted to cover for vCenter Operations Manager. In our next module, which would be our final module, I'll get into the discussion and then we'll take a look at troubleshooting our vSphere environment.